Welcome back to Think Design Work Smart. I'm Alex Bolboaca and I'm coming at you from the Mozaic Works studios. And what I have for you today is an explanation, a deep dive into architectural katas, what they are, why they are so useful for practicing architecture, why you should apply them in your teams, in your organizations. So let's start from the beginning. Why I'm talking about this? Well, we had this Wednesday a really nice live stream with an architectural kata. Actually, I took a problem from one of the problems proposed for architectural katas, and then I went through a few steps in about 2.5 hours and showcased the architectural thinking that goes into designing systems. Of course, in 2.5 hours, you cannot show everything about architecture, so don't expect that. But we went through a few phases. We did some domain modeling, we did some threat modeling at the end, we did splitting modules. It was pretty fun. And yeah, if you find that interesting, you can watch the live stream. And you can also let us know, because we might do some more live streams like that if you find them useful. And I realized after I did the live stream that I never explained what an architectural kata is. So here I am. So an architectural kata is an exercise that is meant to be repeated on architecture. And the fundamental idea behind it is that the way we get good designers is with people who practice design, who actually do designs. But with architecture, generally speaking, what happens is you have some good programmers, you promote them to software architects, and then they do architecture mostly on existing systems, and they rarely have the opportunity to start from scratch and think about all the aspects of architecture for a new system. And if they do that, how often do they do that? Well, a software project that requires this level of architecture will probably last years. So probably in your career, you'll get, even if you start early, maybe, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 maximum opportunities of doing that. And so Ted Neward came up with this idea: how about we do a format where architects and people interested in software architecture that they can use in order to practice their skills, their architecting skills, and also get feedback from a group of peers. And this is what an architectural kata is. Now, if you allow me a bit of a parallel conversation here, the architectural kata came in the context of the software craft movement. So the software craft movement started with from this idea that Agile devolved into less technical. So from extreme programming, which is the most technical aspect of Agile because it gives you technical practices that you need to follow, to Scrum, which tells you these are the things that you need to follow, but without having any technical things in the mix. You need to figure that out for yourself. And so many conferences on Agile are not technical, they are about organization. And there was this need of moving forward with some, and reviving, let's say, revitalizing the Agile movement, but for technical practices as well. And this is where software craft started. And it went to work on the same principles. Communities, and this is why there are a lot of software craft communities around the world, Uh, and then those communities were supposed to gather and practice together. This was the main thing about software craft. Um, right now, I think most of the communities again have gone into uh, mostly talks and chats, and which are cool. Okay, they are needed, but it's not what I feel the essence of software craft is about. Software craft is about practice, and practice as a group of peers, as a group of interested people who want to learn and get better at their skills, get better skills, hone their skills. And the only way we know to do that is by actual practice and through a format called deliberate practice. And deliberate practice means this is a general concept regarding acquisition of skills. It's not something that's specific to software development, but it applies really well to software development. Deliberate practice is a specific type of practice where you take a problem, you work through it, you set some constraints first, and then the most important part is the part that comes after. It's very important to do the practice. But then the deliberate part is that you look back at how you perform and think, what were my challenges and how can I work differently so that I can overcome it. And this type of practice has been around for many years for high performers in music, in sports, in acting even. It's a lot about these kinds of exercises where you do something, you get some feedback. And the feedback can come from yourself, it can come from peers, or it can come from someone who's more experienced than you in that particular technique and who can give you feedback. So a coach, basically. So this was the whole idea with software craft and the connection with deliberate practice. And the software craft movement proposed a few formats for deliberate practice. One of them was a kata, and a coding kata in this case is you take a small problem. The goal of taking that problem is to learn something that's not connected necessarily to the problem, but a skill. So you want to practice a skill connected to software development. That skill could be test-driven development. It can be refactoring. It can be, I don't know, microservices, REST APIs, whatever you want. But the thing is, you need to pick that problem, work through it within the constraints that you set for yourself. So using the techniques, the skills that you want to get better at, and then at the end, get the feedback. And so one of the ways of doing that is kata. Well, you take a problem and you work through it. You can do this alone. You can do this as a pair. So find a colleague and do this with a pair. You can do this as a performing kata. And the performing kata, which is not as done anymore or that much. A performing kata is basically when you train on one kata and then you perform it in front of an audience, right? And the goal here is to show the higher, to show where you can go with your skills and then to get feedback from the audience as well. Think about it like a musician who practices a lot on, I don't know, the guitar or the violin or the piano, and then they play in front of an audience, something that they prepared in order to get feedback. And the other part of it is these are the things that you can do alone or in a few people. But what about if you have a larger group? Well, then there is a coding dojo where you can split into smaller. So you take a large group, and you work on the same problem with one person in front of the keyboard and then switching that person from time to time. This is a coding dojo. And then there's the code retreat, which is a really cool format. My brother and I wrote the book on how to facilitate a code retreat, and it's really fun. It's inspired by writers' retreat, authors' retreats, who, in order to get better at writing, what they do is they start by writing a novel. Let's say you take a topic, I don't know, AI, robots, whatever. You write a short story about that. You get feedback and you think about your process, and then you throw it away and you rewrite it. And it turns out that if you do this for a number of times, the story gets better. And so this is what code retreat is, only we do that with code. So we start working on a problem, 45 minutes, and after 45 minutes we delete the code. We work again on the problem with different constraints, 45 minutes, then we delete the code and so on. And by the end of the day, you learn practices instead of being focused on solutions. So in this context, we have the architectural kata, which is equally important. So code is, of course, what we do, but architectural kata is the way you can learn how to think about structuring systems, which is really great. And I think in the age of large language models and coding assistants that use these models, I think more and more the focus of software development will be on conception, on understanding, on modeling, on structuring this, because those are problems that are unique to your organization. A good architecture is one that fits with your socio-technical system, and that is something that's very difficult to feed into an AI at this point. So it will be more and more important for you to understand how to model and to structure systems so that they respond to the business needs and the constraints of your organization. And the actual coding part might become less of a challenge given these AI assistants. Now, there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of possible challenges. I don't know what will happen, but this is a distinct possibility. So because of this, we have this format called architectural kata. And in the architectural kata, let's go a little bit into what it is. I've run this as a community event and I've run it into companies, and I've run it as a part of trainings, and I've also run it as a performing kata. Let's start with the community one, because that is, let's say, the most complex. The other ones are a bit simpler to organize. So with a community event, what you do in an architectural kata is you start from a problem, and there is a really nice website. If you are searching for architectural kata, you'll find, I think it's architecturalkatas.com or .net. Ted Newart created this site, and then I think other people have contributed with problems, and it has a random generator, and you go there, you pick do one, you click on a button, and it gives you a description of a problem. Now, the problems are on purpose not complete. Their description is slightly incomplete, right? It's not the document that you get from a business analyst in a large organization detailing everything you need to know about that business, about how to structure uh, maybe parts of the code and so on. They are more high level, but they give you hints about the important parts for that particular problem. So some problems are focused on, usually you need to look for the non-functional requirements. Some will be focused on performance, some on security, some on scalability, some on extensibility, and so on. So it's very important to understand first which of these are the most important. And then the way it works in a community event, we pick one problem, split into groups, take 45 minutes to an hour to discuss in those groups. Those groups need to be about 3 to 5 people. You need some kind of whiteboard or a collaboration tool like Miro, where people can draw and remove things. This is very important. It doesn't work that well on paper, for example, when you cannot delete stuff, or on flip charts, because it's important for software architecture to be able to add and remove and modify things, and still have a diagram that looks kind of okay to understand. And so you work in small groups, you generate possible solutions for that problem. The facilitator is there to answer some clarification questions. And then at the end of this period, we do the feedback. So each team presents their own solution, and we discuss things like trade-offs, which trade-offs are present in this solution, and compare with the other solutions. And by doing this, people understand what high variety of solutions there is, and also that they train on identifying trade-offs, because this is the most important part of software architectures, I believe. There are a lot of things that are important, but one of the core things is find a solution and then understand the trade-offs for that solution, because there's never a perfect solution in software architecture. So, and after we do that, the event usually lasts about 2 hours. And so what we can do is we can have a second iteration where we can keep the same groups or slightly modify the groups, and maybe change the problem, pick another problem, and do it again. And then at the end, we have a retrospective where we write down the things that we learned, the things that surprised us, the things that we heard about, and that we'd like to understand more about, and we'd like to take them back to our organizations, because remember, this would be a community event. Now, if you run this within an organization, usually what we have is people who are asking us for specific things. Maybe it's about learning more about microservices, or learning about API design, or learning about cell architecture. And then we start from a set of constraints, and we pick the problem to fit these constraints and the specific of the organization. And then we try to shuffle them a little bit and to push them into trying out other solutions, because one of the challenges inside organizations is that people tend to come with similar solutions to what they've already done. So this helps them shuffle a little bit how they think about architecture, and it's pretty cool. Now, when we do this in a training, it's about a specific technique. So maybe we'll do domain modeling, or maybe we'll do splitting in microservices, or maybe we'll do event storming, or maybe we'll do just modular architecture, splitting into modules, designing the APIs of the modules, and so on. Maybe in the security focused learning programs, we do thread modeling. So first we create a solution, and then we look at the thread model for that solution. This is the security practices for architects course. And the last one is the one where you can do this on your own, or maybe with one colleague, where you take one of these problems, work together with a colleague, or maybe with somebody who you know and works at another organization. That's even better, because then you can exchange experiences and grow your skills by being exposed to other ways of solving problems. And yeah, you do that, and at the end you get feedback, or you discuss between yourselves. You could also, technically, one thing you could do is to record your session and then submit it for feedback to people like me or other people who are interested in software architecture, and then you could get feedback on your technique. Yeah, so these are the options, but to summarize, architectural katas are a way of practicing architecture. You need to practice architecture because there are too few opportunities to actually do that at your job during a career. There are various ways you can do this within a community. You can do it with a coach. You can do it as part of an organization event. You can ask your organization to organize something like this. You can do it by yourself or with a colleague. Or you can watch the live stream that we did and see what you get out of it, and maybe try to take a similar problem and apply the same techniques and see what you come up with and what you are missing. So if you are interested in more things related to software architecture, we have a full playlist here. And also, if you are interested in another live stream with Architectural Kata, let me know in the comments. It all depends on how much engagement we get, right? Because we need to decide where to focus with our efforts. And that stream, while I really love to do it, it was 2.5 hours, which meant about 3 hours, 4 hours in total with all the preparation and everything. So it is quite an investment. So let me know if you want more of that, if you want to join, and let the organizations you are in know that we can do this for your organization, and that we have some very interesting learning programs for software architects. If you go to mozaicworks.com with a Z, mozaicworks.com, mozaicworks.com. If you go there, you'll find our courses on for software architects. They are really appreciated, and I thought about taking them out for a little bit of a promo here. All right, so this is it for me for now. What do you think about all this? Have you tried architectural katas? Do you plan on maybe doing some exercises on this? Do you think you need to learn more about architecture, let us know in the comments, ask questions, uh, watch the live stream, leave us some comments with questions. Why did you do that? That's an important thing. What is this technique? Where can I find more about it? It's really cool to see that. Thank you kindly for the view, and until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart. See you next Saturday.